Welcome everyone to, I guess, our second webinar of the new year. And I'm really excited to have this topic, healthy you equals a wealthy you. And we're really blessed to have an amazing guest speaker today, Rachel Cosgrove. She's the owner of Results Fitness. So welcome, Rachel. And I will be introducing you a little bit more formally as we kind of go through our talk today.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yes, me too. So a couple of things, housekeeping. With this webinar, what we're going to do is there's a Q&A chat functionality. And so I'm going to go through some topics here for probably the next 10-15 minutes. If you have questions, just start putting them in there. And then I'm going to hand it over to Rachel, and she's going to go through a lot of her healthy tips for today. And then I'll kind of be monitoring the Q&A and be asking questions as we go. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And I think that is it to make sure we can get started. So, all right. So as we start going into and really looking at this conversation, I just wanted to unpack, like, why do I believe that a healthy you equals a wealthy you? And so I wanted to run through, you all know, I can't help myself as I get into looking at numbers. So a lot of my content today is going to be kind of digging into the numbers of really the wealthy part. And I think I told Rachel before we got started today, I'm like, I always forget to introduce myself. So my name is John Vance. I'm president and founder of Vance Wealth. We are a full service wealth management firm here in Santa Clarita. And we focus on personal financial planning and then also working with business owners with business and tax planning. So let's talk a little bit about what I mean by this. So when you start thinking about the healthy component of it, right? So why does being healthy make you wealthier? And I'm just going to run through, and then I have some data to support this. So, number one, more productive. If you're healthier, you have better energy, better focus, and you have overall better happiness. If you have better habits, number two, I think it really allows you to develop both personally and professionally. Allows you to set goals. Those daily habits that you really try to tackle, that's a really big part of being healthy. And then the third component of this is more wealth. So I'm going to talk about the benefits of compounding with longevity. And you're not going to see this a lot of places. This is something that I kind of had an aha moment that said, you know what, if I can work a lot longer and healthier, the impact of allowing your money to accumulate is pretty transformational. And so I'm going to show you some of those numbers as I went through that. So obviously you see my little disclosure at the bottom. It's not guaranteed, but I think if you look at this mindset of being healthier, both mentally and physically, it will increase the probability of success. Why is my remote not working today? All right. So I went through, because again, I can't help myself. I got to look at the numbers. And I think Rachel's going to be a much more fun, softer side of the conversation. But when we look at this idea of benefits of compounding, right, we know how money can grow and accumulate with the benefits of compounding. So we're going to take kind of two scenarios that we see a lot of times when people are preparing for retirement. So we have the typical scenario. You work your whole life, probably enter the workforce in late teens, early 20s. You retire at age 60, which I think a lot of people would look at as a little bit of an early retirement, but that's a lot of goal. That's a goal of a lot of people. And then you live to age 85. So you have a nice, healthy retirement, 25 years. And, throughout your working years, you accumulated, assets at retirement, and these would be assets that you can live off of, right? Your primary residence would not be one of them. These would be investment assets of about 2.5 million. And you're using that 2.5 million to generate about $125,000 of annual spending. So that's money that you can take out of the portfolio. Now, we know that during your 60s, you'll be eligible for Social Security. You might have pension. So that's other income. I'm just strictly talking about from your portfolio. So that's the typical scenario. So what I'm going to try to convince you today is really what we kind of call this achieve more scenario. If you work 10 years longer and live 10 years longer, what does this look like? So this means retiring at age 70 and living till age 95. And I know that, over the years I've been doing this, I think our biggest fear is what? Retiring and not being healthy. But I think we need to expand that to our whole life, right? We should be healthy along the path. And when you look at somebody who has 10 more years to work, 10 more years to save, 10 more years to allow their money to compound, in this scenario, kind of an apples to apples comparison, this typical saver would probably, instead of having 2.5 million, would be closer to 5 million, just by the sheer fact of their money has more time to work for them. And then that would allow this person, instead of having the annual spend of 125,000, they would actually be at 200,000. So I made a couple of assumptions here. So right out of the gate, you can see by working longer because you're healthier, it allows you to build more assets over time, and then potentially have that opportunity to have a much bigger pot of money to spend from, and then generate more cash flow. So more cash flow for what? Well, it could be for travel, fun stuff, help your grandkids, whatever it might be. Those are the choices you get to make as an individual. But I wanted to illustrate this. And so what I did is I said, let's assume that at this point of retirement, we're going to make a 7% rate of return. Again, this is a hypothetical illustration, and that we're going to assume 5% inflation. Now, 5% inflation is higher than normal. The reason why I'm using this is just to show the impact if you want to spend more on an ongoing basis once you get into retirement, what this would look like. So then we look at, okay, what are the results? So we have a couple things here. I just talked about these key assumptions, 7% return on investments. So again, this is a hypothetical illustration, and a 5% annual spending increases. So on the left-hand side, this is the typical scenario we see. Retiring at age 60, live till age 85, and I already ran through those numbers. The result at age 85 is you ran out of money. You started spending 5%, you ran out of money. And then what I'm looking at is this work longer, live longer scenario, really getting you to work until 70, live until 95, because you have more assets. You basically were able to spend, you can see the results through age 95, is that you had 60% more spendable income for your entire retirement, and you were able to maintain that $5 million asset level that you could leave to your kids or grandkids. So it has a component of longevity for you and your spouse, and it has longevity for your kids, grandkids, and the legacy you might want to live. So this is just a reminder of why these investments are critical. Now, I get kind of teased all the time because I am hyper-focused on being healthy. It's something that I pay attention to every week. I probably have every level of gadget like the Oura Ring and the iWatch and the Ooler for the bed and just different things to help improve my health, right? Whether it's improving, and so if we start looking at it as a household, what we do, we're spending more money on higher quality food. We're spending more money on exercise, from whether you're working with a trainer, going to a gym, getting all your stuff at home through a Peloton, whatever that might be, you're going to spend $100 to $400 on that. Doing things like cryotherapy, infrared sauna, that's going to be a cost. What about mental health? Spending time and money on a therapist, devices to track this. Now, the good news is there's a bunch of stuff that is for free, like meditation, stretching, more sleep. Those are free. So what if you spent that $1,000 per month to improve your health and wellness? And so if those slides before didn't convince you, because I know being healthier can cost more money, it doesn't always have to. But what I'm showing you is that investment that you make over your entire lifetime pays massive dividends later in life. And, because that's the real exciting part, is if we can live healthy, live more vibrantly, isn't that the goal? And from a financial perspective, I showed you that, it actually puts you in a much better place. And, we all know that money is one of the number one stressors for that an individual or even a married dynamic have. And so being able to properly plan for that and take some of that out of the equation is I think critical. And that's really why we call this a healthy you, a wealthy you, because and hopefully these numbers kind of showed you some of the facts. So I do want to just deal with a couple quick things. You guys also know I can't help myself. I'm going to cover a few things just around the overall markets, and this is really this idea around mindset. So if you're going to take care of yourself from a wellness perspective and also from a financial perspective, I do think these tenets pretty much ring true. You have to have faith in the process. You have to have patience. Things don't happen overnight, and you have to have discipline. The discipline is what gets you through. So I think when you put those things on the financial planning side and the wellness side, and you really keep these things in mind, I think that's how you make progress over time. And so I do apologize. There's a lot of data on here, but this is a reminder. We're getting a lot of questions, especially over the last few weeks, because the markets have had a lot of volatility. And I think the general question is, well, what's going on? The Fed's raising rates. We have inflation problems. There's just different things going on. But the purpose of this slide is to actually go back in history and say, what if I actually invested my money at it specifically the wrong time? So at exactly the wrong day. So if you could go back in history and pick one day, which literally would have been the worst day to invest. And that day, and this was actually post World War II America. So, since the 40s, what was the single worst day to actually, if you had invested your money? That single day was on Tuesday, October 9th, 2007. So not that long ago, about 14 and a half years ago. If you invested on that day, 17 months later, from October 9th of 2007 to March 9th of 2009, your investments, if you invested just all your money in the stock market as measured by the S&P, you would have lost 57%, right? That's the scary part, right? That's what makes investors nervous, because they're kind of figuring, well, what if the markets go down? We're not expecting that through this recent volatility, but I wanted just to share with you, because if you literally pick that worst time, and what we want to do is look forward and say, well, if I invest my money at the top of the market and just held, and this data is a couple months old, but actually if you just held, you still would have averaged 10% from that time. Meaning if you would have invested on October 9th, 2007 and held through about October 31st of last year, you still would have averaged 10%, which is the historical average for the markets. And so it's just a good reminder, while you go through some short-term pain when it comes to investing, having that mindset, having that faith, that discipline and the patience to really make sure you move forward. And really that's what we look at. Successful investing takes patience. I'm sure Rachel is going to speak a little bit to the kind of like, to change your body, to change your health. It just takes time. There's no quick fix to that. And it takes a consistency. And that's really, there's a lot of corollaries when I look at the investing, how to be a successful investor as well. Then the last piece. So I read a great book last year called Who Not How. And I have this book on my desk. I just started reading it. It's called The Gap and the Gain. I can't recommend the book because I haven't read it, but I read their book from last year and I loved it. But I love the concept. So bear with me. I'm going to read just a little bit here. So this is on the left-hand side. Most people, especially highly ambitious people, are unhappy because of how they measure their progress. We all have an ideal, a moving target that is always out of reach, right? That's that level of perfection. When we measure ourselves against the ideal, we're in the gap. However, when we measure ourselves against our previous selves, we're in the gain. And that's one of the big things that we focus on, especially here at Vance Wealth, is like, is really striving to continuously improve, make continuous improvement. And that's really something that I think as individuals, we should all strive for. And so this idea, when you set the ideal or the perfection, you can never get there, right? You're constantly frustrated with this, we can't be the best looking, have the most money. It's impossible to achieve that because perfection is not achievable. But when you change your mindset and rewire your brain and really focus on this idea of gaining, it's basically looking at the small steps that you're taking that are making an impact on your life. And you start changing your framework from failure to success, frustration to satisfaction, disappointment to confidence. And so I haven't read this book. I'm super excited. It's on my desk. So I wanted just to cover this concept because I think some of the stuff Rachel's going to jump into really delves into some of these issues. So I think we are ready to transition. So I know I talked really fast. You guys are all used to me. It's like drinking through a fire hose. So on we go. So our guest speaker today is Rachel Cosgrove, and I'm going to let her take control. And I'm going to try to do a brief bio. You did give me an essay here to read. So
I know, that's what I told you. Sorry.
It's
Grab
okay. I'm just
bullet
going to
points.
go while you're getting geared up here. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but Rachel co-owns and operates Results Fitness, a fitness center in Southern California. Actually, locally, it's based here in Santa Clarita for the past 22 years with her husband and business partner, Alan Cosgrove. Results Fitness was voted one of the top 10 gyms in the United States 3 years in a row by Men's Health magazine, along with being named one of the best gyms in women's health in 2013. And it was featured on BBC America for the fitness programming and philosophies. Rachel, again, partnered with her husband, started their second company called Results Fitness University, where they consult, speak, write, work with hundreds of personal trainers around the world. So I'm sure I'll ask more questions as we go, but I'm going to hand it over to you, Rachel. So again, thank you for being here. I'm really excited to actually have a dialogue with another human being as we do this webinar together.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I love what you just said. I think when you said spend $1,000 a month, I just wanted to change the wording on that. And I encourage everyone to switch it to invest $1,000 a month, because exactly what John was talking about, if you invest that $1,000 a month, you're going to make a return on that, because you're going to, everything you mentioned. So I'm really excited to be here. I feel like fitness and finance go hand in hand. And, so it's really exciting to have a partnership with John, who's such an expert at what he does. And so I just listen to him when it comes to finances, and then I help with the fitness part of it. So thank you. I just wanted to say a quick thank you to Vance Wealth for having me. This is an honor to be here and an honor to share and be able to have this dialogue. Like you said, I think when people are so focused on their finances and they forget about the health and the fitness part of it, doesn't matter how rich you are if you don't have your health to enjoy it. So let's talk about how we can become healthy. So I'd love to meet you guys on social. I'm really active. I'm also a fast talker, so I will be flying through this. So if you guys have a slide or something you see that resonates with you, I'd love you to screenshot it, tag me. I'm really active on Instagram, rachelcosgrove.co. Also, our gym is Results Fitness SCV. And then on Facebook, we're Results Fitness Santa Clarita. So head over to social media and I will meet you there after this call. So let's talk about, why do we stop doing the things that make us feel so good? And I think when John's talking about I think we all know, right? We all know what to do. Like we know we should eat healthy. We know we should exercise. We know we should do all the things, right? But we don't always do them. And maybe we're doing them right now. It's January. This is, as a fitness trainer, this is my favorite time of year because everybody's super motivated. And, it's like the one time of year when everyone's like, yeah, let's go to the gym and let's do everything right. And I love that. I have nothing against New Year's resolutions. I think it's fantastic. I think you should definitely take advantage of that momentum coming into the new year, because that's when you can really get some good habits in place and really get that momentum going. So why do we stop? Why right now, if you're motivated and if you're feeling really good, actually, I'd love you guys to jump in. I see we have the Q&A open. If you guys want to jump in the Q&A, I'd love to know you're listening. Yeah, I like a little interaction. If you want to jump in the Q&A and just tell me if you've set a New Year's resolution, you can just say yes if you want to, just so I can see if you can talk to me, if you can hear me. So just jump in the Q&A and say, yes, I set a New Year's resolution, if you did, or no, I didn't, or never, or anything like that. I'd just love to see some interaction. I will watch for those. So here's why we end up stopping the things that we know make us feel so good. One, so Christina set some New Year's resolutions. Good job, Christina. So we're emotional creatures. When emotions are high, we can't think logically. Okay. So this is a rule that, I live by this in business too. When emotions are high, right? We're not thinking logically. So you can't have a logical conversation if you're really emotional. The other reason is you're not the problem. It's a problem with your environment or your situation. So we need to look at your environment. If you've stopped, either emotions were high or there was something in your environment that led you down a path that, wasn't the path you had originally put yourself on. So we have to remove those temptations and put strategies in place when we're thinking logically, okay, to outsmart our emotional side. So awesome. Gianne's going to lose 35 pounds. Fantastic. Good job. We got Brian and Lindsay on here. If you'll see some of my pictures, maybe Lindsay Schlicks. Lindsay and I are going strong. Love it. Hey guys, you're doing great. Love you guys. Always have New Year's goals. Chris Borda, you better get some goals going. Chris is one of our gym owners actually in Connecticut. So I'm going to have to get on him about his goals. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, this is from the Happiness Hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt. About our emotions, our emotional brain and our logical brain. That's how we want to think of it in our head. There's two different ways of thinking, right? We have the super logical, which John's very good at. He's got his numbers and he's very logical and he tells us how much we're going to make. And he tells us, all makes total sense, right? Until like we're scrolling on our Facebook and we see the impulse buy that we end up, clicking and buying, even though it wasn't part of our logical decision, right? We've all done it, but there's the logical side of the numbers and then there's the emotional side when you end up doing something that's emotional. So let's talk about the keys to change. Okay. So in this book, he talks about this visual of an elephant and a rider. And so anytime you want to make change, you want to think about the elephant and the rider. So you're in your mind, okay, you have an elephant and on that elephant is a rider who's riding that elephant. The rider is your logical brain. Okay. You have to give the writer clear direction and reduce mental paralysis. Okay. If you've you're on social media or you're on the internet and you're looking at all these different things and you're trying to figure out which diet to do, which exercise program to do, what am I going to do? That's an easy way to get paralyzed and end up doing absolutely nothing. So a lot of times people in the new year, you hear your friend that's doing this diet, you hear that, fast that might work, or you hear, oh, maybe I should do the Peloton, or maybe I should do right. And it's like, all of a sudden you're like, and you do nothing because you're got so many different directions. You don't know which way to go. So first step is we have to get clear directions. We have to get super crystal clear on what are we going to follow. And you're going to do much better if you pick one path, right? Even if it's not the most effective path, it's going to be more effective if you pick one rather than have multiple directions that we're going. And then we have to motivate the elephant. So the elephant is our emotions. Okay. So the writer is our logical brain. The elephant is our emotions, and it's a big elephant. So we got those emotions, right? And we've all had where maybe first thing in the morning, right? Our writer, our logical brain is like, okay, we're going to be healthy today. We're going to eat really good. We're going to go to the gym. We're going to exercise, and it's going to be a really good day. And we're going to drink lots of water. And then as the day goes on, right? Maybe we're getting hit with, news feeds, right? Or stuff going on, or stuff at work, stuff with your family, things are happening and emotions start to rise. And then pretty soon, right, our elephant's like, yeah, you know what? You deserve a glass of wine, and you deserve, right? Your elephant's like, you were headed down this path, but you know what? We're going to go down this path instead. So we have to connect those emotions. You can't forget about those emotions when you're trying to make big changes in your life. We have to shape that path. What path do we want to go on to make those changes? So figuring it out while we're thinking logically, right? Reducing those obstacles, tweaking the environment, and making the journey go downhill. And that's how we're going to make those long-term changes. We've all done a hard diet where we grit our way through and we're like, I got this. And that's really your writer pulling your elephant, right? Like, come on, let's go. And you can do that for a period of time, right? Like you can do that for 6 weeks. You can do that for 8 weeks. You can, yank on the reins and really, nope, I'm going to be strict. I'm going to do this, and keep yourself on the path. But eventually that elephant is going to veer off. So that's where we have to start to think about, how do we really make this long-term change where we're taking both, the logical, what we know is going to work, and the emotions into account. It's a slippery slope, right? We're feeling fatter, slower, weaker, more pain, tired, right? Because we've stopped exercising. Maybe we've started drinking too much alcohol. Maybe poor sleep. I know over the pandemic, like alcohol consumption went up quite a bit. Poor sleep, right? All of these things start to lead to us, heading down this slippery slope. And it's so easy to just give up, right? To just say, you know what? Like, it's like a cycle, right? You get yourself in this cycle, and because you're feeling tired, then you don't want to exercise, and then you just keep going in this cycle. Stress builds up. And so maybe you're feeling like you're stuck in a rut. Anybody? Jump in the Q&A if you're feeling stuck in a rut. Ready for a change? Anybody feeling like, you know what, I'm ready for a change. This is 2022. It's time to do this. Or like you're just spinning your wheels, right? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. And I just quickly wanted to give you guys, I know John did a great introduction, so I won't get into this too much, but just a little bit about who I am. I am an author of 2 books. So I do have a book, The Female Body Breakthrough. So you can check that out on Amazon. Wrote that quite a bit ago, and I've been a coach for 25 years. So we've owned Results Fitness for 22 years. And I've worked with companies like Nike, Women's Health, Men's Health, and a number of different magazines. But so that's kind of a little bit about my background. Those of you who haven't met me or don't know who I am. I also, part of my story is I've been there. I get it. When I turned 40, I actually realized I was gaining 2 to 3 pounds a year. Now, I used to be a really physical trainer on the floor coaching our clients, and my career had shifted to being more of a desk job because I was doing more business coaching. I was doing more traveling. I was, going around speaking at events, and then I'd stay in hotel rooms. And so my lifestyle had changed. And over time, by becoming more sedentary, I had started to gain weight. And so I was up, it was like slowly over time, right? So this is my in-body over here. Yes, I'm giving you guys everything. That's how I am. I'm honest, transparent, give you my weight, give you everything. So I had creeped up to where I was at 179 pounds, 29.8% body fat, 30.7% body fat. Okay, so this is me, fitness trainer. It happens to all of us. It's a slippery slope that's easy to end up on, right? I get it. Okay. What I started to realize was I needed accountability. This is even during the pandemic. I connected in with our online Results Everywhere program because I was like, I need people. I need to be connected to people and I need to have a goal. I'm externally motivated. And so that was something that as I figured that out about myself, I do best with a plan to hold myself to. Now, this might be you. This might not be you. But for me, I know I need that external accountability. So for you, can you imagine 2022 being the year you start feeling energized, confident, and happy, and feeling like this is something you could keep doing for the rest of your life, right? Where we can get you on a path that it's going to be easy, that we make it a downhill path, that, we find what works for you so that you don't feel like you have to grind and grit and, make it really a difficult process, right? It doesn't have to be difficult. So what I'm going to talk about throughout this presentation, just to give you guys a quick update on where we're going, we're going to talk about setting inspiring goals. We're going to talk about what motivation type are you? Like I mentioned, I'm motivated by, I need some external motivation. I need support. I need people. I like to work out with people. What about you? Is that something that's important for you? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what your actions now are versus the actions that we're moving towards. We're going to talk about becoming a scientist. And this is where John's going to get excited because we're going to get into the numbers which we're very nerdy not I'm going to say as well. I'm not going to say you're a nerd, John, but
Okay.
we're very nerdy at
That's
results
fitting.
fitness. We like all our data. We like all our numbers. We like to see that, everything we do, we track loading. So that's what we're going to talk about, being a scientist with your fitness. And I think, a lot of people track everything when it comes to their finances, but you forget to track things when it comes to your fitness. And so we're going to talk about that. Who you spend time with. And this is like I was talking about, the people you spend time with can make a big difference for you for that long-term change. And then I'm gonna give you guys a free gift if that's okay with you. And then I'll open it up for Q&A. So that's what we're gonna do as we head down this path. So let's talk about setting some goals. I love to set goals. John, do you like to set goals?
Oh yeah. I love it.
I know
I
we
like
like
to set them
goals.
and track them, setting them and tracking them, because I feel like
them and tracking them.
back in the day I'd set them and then I didn't have a good mechanism to actually monitor and keep track, and then all of a sudden you get to the end of the year and it's like, what happened? I didn't get what I didn't get accomplished what I had hoped.
Absolutely. And I know if you guys work with John, the first thing he does is ask you, what's your goals when it comes to your finances? And that's an important question because he can't help you get there if he doesn't know where you want to go, right? And it's the same thing with your fitness. And I think a lot of people work out, but they don't work out with a goal in mind. And so you might just be going through the motions and, because you should, but you don't have something that's really giving you that powerful reason why. It's really giving you that reason to stay consistent, right? Like maybe right now it's January, you started to go to the gym, you started a workout routine, but have you really thought about why? Why are you doing it? Because if you connect that why, it's going to be much more likely that you'll continue to do it through 2022, 2023, 2024, and for the rest of your life. So we really want to start to think about, what are those goals? What if you can do it, right? So I want to encourage you. I know a lot of people have weight loss goals. I know somebody shared their 35-pound weight loss goal, and that's a great goal. But with that 35-pound weight loss goal, I want you to think of your body as an instrument, not as an ornament. Okay. So start to think about training your body for what it can do instead of how it can look. And I think if you start to connect with the things you can do, then you'll start to really, so by losing the 35 pounds, where will I be? How will I feel? What are some of the things that I'll be able to do? Maybe I'll be able to, maybe it's pick up my grandkids. Maybe it's, get out down on the floor. Maybe it's go skiing. Maybe it's, things that you haven't been able to do. Go for a hike with your family. Maybe there's things that you haven't been doing that you'll be able to do. And especially, as we're financially wealthy, because we have John Vance as our financial advisor and we're retiring and we're like wanting to enjoy life. What are some of the things we want to do? I want you to think about those goals in terms of not just, I want to weigh a certain amount or I want to look a certain way, but what do I want to do? Okay. So think about what you want to be able to do. So I want you, if you guys will share, what do you want to do with your incredible body? Go ahead and jump in the chat and share with us. I'd love to know, anything that you guys can think of. If it's go skydiving. I know we had a client who the skydiving weight limit is actually a certain weight limit. And so you can't go skydiving unless you are at that certain weight limit. So that was her goal. She wanted to be able to skydive. And so she did. She went skydiving because we helped her to accomplish that goal. And so what might be something that you want to do with your incredible body? And by the way, I hope you guys have pen and paper and you're taking notes and you're writing down some of the things that are popping in your head of what you want to do. So longer hikes and swims. Okay, good. So if we connect that, okay, the reason we're exercising, the reason we're making these changes in our life is because I want to go enjoy a hike and I want to see a view that I've never been able to see before because I'm able to hike 12 miles instead of only 3 miles, right? I want to run a 5K. There's no better feeling than crossing a finish line, Carissa. So yes, I think that is a great goal. Run a 5K. That's a lot of that feeling of crossing a finish line.
Rachel, I love where you're going with this conversation. I kind of dealing more with why and really the motivation behind it, because I feel like so often you hear people set goals around losing weight, which sometimes is just maybe how you look. That's they're trying to lose weight to look better, but then you're just like, well, what is it to feel better? Is it to, so I love the motivation side because I think that makes it a lot stickier. That makes your chance of succeeding at a lot higher when you have a much better purpose around what you're trying to do.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. And then think about, so as you guys are thinking about this, and I know this, you might not want to share with, because you're like, Rachel's going to end up telling everybody what my goals are. What on a scale of 1 to 10, okay, how important is it? Because you might write a goal down and you think it's important. Maybe it's, to wear a bathing suit at the beach or and is that really important? And I think, a lot of us, our goals have shifted over this pandemic. Maybe wearing a bikini on the beach used to be important and maybe that's not so important anymore. Maybe now it's that we want to feel healthy. We want to feel confident in our health. What is it on a scale of 1 to 10? Is it important? And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you? And I want to encourage you, if you look at that goal that you just wrote down and you think, I don't know, it's not that important, it's like a 5, right? Then you're probably not going to do the things to accomplish that goal. So you really want to get a goal that you are like 10 out of 10, it's important, I got to do this and I got to make it happen. And 10 out of 10, I am motivated and I'm ready to go. And that's going to make it much more likely. So think through, is it important and how motivated are you? How confident are you that you can do it? Because that's important. And don't wait till Monday. Okay. We're going to start now. Okay. We got to start now. We have to take action now. Oh, Christina's a 10. I like it, Christina. Good. So we have to take action now. Wait, I think I'm missing a slide. Oh boy. Boy, something happened. Okay.
Pop through.
Hang on. I just gave it away. Hopefully you guys didn't see that. I want to tell a story of one of my first goals that I wrote down because this is one of my favorite goal setting stories. So I wrote down the goal to fly first class on Virgin Atlantic. So my husband's from Scotland. And so we have family in the UK. And so we had just opened our business 22 years ago. We didn't have any money, had a lot of debt. We were, just trying to make ends meet, trying to build our business up. And we started getting into goal setting. I started following Jim Rohn and really learning about goal setting. And so I wrote down, pen to paper, I want to fly first class on Virgin Atlantic. And if you guys have heard of how first class is on Virgin Atlantic, it's like, there's beds and you get a massage and it's really cool. And so because we wanted to travel to go visit family, we wanted to be able to do it first class. And so I went on their website. So here's the key, guys, take action towards your goals. So I wrote down the goal and then I went and took action towards my goals. So I went to their website to look up how much is a first class flight to Virgin Atlantic. Now, the first class flight was the same price as a car. And at the time we were driving a used, we had bought at an auction, Dodge Shadow for $1,000 and it was not happening. So it was $18,000 for a seat on a first class flight. And I saw those prices and immediately every conversation in my head went up of red flag of you're never going to be able to do this. What are you even thinking? You can't do this goal. You can't do right. Can't. And then I quieted my brain and I thought, you know what, just I don't know how we're going to do this, but I wrote it down. And so let's carry on, keep building our business. And I'm going to go ahead and sign up for their email list. Okay. So I still took action towards the goal, got into their email list, and we started to build our business. And a few, year or two later, got an email. I was getting emails, I was reading them, and we were doing better. We could leave we could both be gone from the business, which was a big deal. And we got an email that they were having a special. It was only $1,500 a seat for first class. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Alan, it's $1,500 a seat. Like, we can do this. We can go. Of course it was restricted dates, but we could do it. And so I clicked and I bought our first class tickets. And we were like, it was really obnoxious. We were really obnoxious, like, take my picture and give me my champagne. And, we were having a good time, excited. We were accomplishing our goal of flying first class. And we got to the lounge. And as we're in the lounge, now Richard Branson is who owns Virgin Atlantic. And if you don't know who Richard Branson is, I've read a lot of his business books, and I've, really looked up to how he runs his businesses. And we're in the first class lounge, and guess who's there? Richard Branson. And so I go right up to Richard Branson and I introduce myself and I say hello, get a picture with him. He kisses my hand. And Alan says he's a player, but so we get, it was just, and it was actually, just like, it was beyond the goal that I set, right? So if I had not set that goal, if I had not written down that goal, I never would have got to go to the first class lounge, never would have got to meet Richard Branson if I had let all those things in my head keep me from setting that goal. Well, Richard Branson owns an island. You guys know he owns an island. It's called Necker Island. So I was getting pretty good at this goal setting stuff. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to put Necker Island on my vision board. So I like doing a vision board. So I did a vision board and I put Necker Island on my vision board, and we got ourselves a Virgin Atlantic credit card, and we were accumulating points, and we had started to fly first class more often because we were using our points. And so over time, 10 years, we had accumulated all these points, and we ended up getting an invite to go to Necker Island. Now, don't worry, Alan took the picture. But we ended up going to Necker Island, having a trip of a lifetime. And I'm telling you this story because whatever popped in your head when I said, what do you want to do with your incredible body? And if you're thinking about like, I want to go sailing, I want to go, like, there's no limit to what you can do. Okay. So I don't want you to put those limits on yourself, because that little goal that you wrote down, if you have it in your mind, if you are even thinking it, you don't know what it's going to lead you to. Okay. So just don't put up those little, red flags of, oh, I can't do it. I'm never going to be able to hike that far. I'm never going to be able to do a 5K, or I'm never going to be able to. Yes, you can. You can if you decide that you want to, and you never know why. Writing down that goal and moving towards it is what else you're going to end up accomplishing and experiencing. And that's what it's really all about. So that's my favorite goal setting story, because I love setting goals. And I think goal setting in fitness is one of the things that, you don't realize the power of writing down that goal. Okay, let's talk about what motivation type you are. So I talked about a little bit about my external motivation that I realized. Now, this was the book that I read that I realized, this is really interesting, because this actually gives us some insight for our clients and for myself of how do we motivate ourselves. And so this book talks about 4 different motivation types. It talks about being an upholder, a questioner, an obliger, or a rebel. And I'm going to give you guys the laydown of what each of these are, and you guys can jump in the chat and tell me which one you think you are. And as you start to understand what motivation type you are, it might help you as you're setting your fitness goals to accomplish them. So if you're an upholder, you're one of those people who I can give you the clear rules and the structure. I can say, here's exactly what you need to do. You need to work out 3 days a week. You need to follow this program, and you need to drink, half your body weight in ounces of water, and you need to eat, a gram per pound of body weight of protein, and go. And if you're an upholder, if I give you those rules and you lay them out for you, you're like, done. You have no problem following, because you're an upholder. You're somebody who can follow that. And a lot of us who aren't upholders don't like people like this, because we're like, how do they just do it, right? And these people are rare, okay? And these are the people who are usually motivated themselves. They can do it. They end up just following the path, right? So if you're one of these people, you're probably easily motivated and you probably don't understand why other people aren't motivated. You're probably like, I don't get it. I don't get why everyone isn't just exercising and doing everything they should be. But one thing you have to be careful of, you may need to let go of strict rules at times because you may freak out if you can't follow your strict rules. So, you do have to be careful of that if you are an upholder. Another type is a questioner. So questioners, and as you come, like when we first sit down with you, we try to figure out what personality type you are, because it's going to help us to be a better coach for you. So questioners want to know the facts. They want to know the information. They want to know, they want to know what's the data. Okay. So like John's given us all the data. So they are very motivated. They actually don't, they don't want you to put expectations on them. They're more motivated internally, okay? But they need to know the data. They need to know it makes sense. And if it makes sense, then they're in, okay? So if you're a questioner, you really need to know the data. You need to know the details. You need to know what works. And then once you know that it works, once you know that it makes sense, you will be motivated to follow the plan, okay? So this is as you're laying out your plan. And then the obliger, and this is me actually. Obliger, accountability is key, okay? It's key to your success. So you always want to meet others' expectations. You're motivated by structure, and really meeting outer expectations is going to be what's going to keep you motivated. And so this is what I've realized for myself. I need to have that external accountability. I like to have a race I'm training for. I like to have people that I'm meeting to train with. And so that's what leads me. It makes a much more downhill path for me to live the lifestyle that I know makes me feel good. Okay. So, key is be careful of burnout, because you can end up, basically saying yes to everybody because you want to be a part of all of the groups. And then last but not least, we got our rebel. And these, the rebel is, you want to be aware if you're a rebel, because you like to do it your own way. And so if I give you what works and I say, hey, listen, we've been running Results Fitness for 22 years and here's what works. We have the most effective program and this is exactly what you need to do. You probably are not going to follow it because you're a rebel and because you want to figure it out yourself. And so you're going to try and figure out your own path. So if you're somebody who has tried different things maybe and none of it has worked, you could fall into this category. So just something to start to be aware of. So what we like to do is give you choices so that you can actually decide yourself which path you want to choose. And that hopefully gives you that ownership that you'll be more likely to make it that downhill path so that you can make long-term change. So hopefully that helps you guys. It's something that, as you're figuring out how to follow through on your fitness goals, thinking about how you're motivated can be really powerful for you. All right, let's dive into number 3, your actions. The actions you guys are currently doing now versus the actions you're moving toward, okay? So is this what anybody's doing now? Or maybe you were doing it as you headed into the new year, okay? Maybe you were eating. So, and I would encourage you guys to get a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, and I want you on the left side to write down all of the things you're currently doing. What are some of my current behaviors? What am I currently doing? And where is it leading me, right? Like if I do want to lose 35 pounds, what are some of the things I'm currently doing that might keep me from accomplishing that goal, right? So maybe these are some of the things: eating bigger portions, eating mindlessly, poor sleep, no exercise. So just make a quick, list of everything that you currently are doing, and then draw yourself an arrow. And let's talk about where we're going. So we're going to make some changes, right? Now, maybe we don't necessarily want to make huge changes, but one change at a time is actually the highest chance you're going to stick to it. So maybe this is what we want to move towards. Now, I'm not saying you're going to make all of these changes at once, but right now as an exercise, do this exercise and it will give you an idea of, okay, these are some of the things I need to start thinking about making a priority. Okay. And then you can pick one of these things, circle one of these things. And that's going to be my priority right now. I'm going to really master my sleep. I'm going to really master exercising consistently. If I get my exercise down, then I know automatically I'm probably, like we call it habit stacking, right? If you guys have read Atomic Habits, habit stacking, like once, you start exercising consistently, now you actually start sleeping better, then you start eating better, right? Now things just start to stack on top of each other. And that's the most downhill way to make change, right? Pick one thing and then it starts to compound on top of the other. Compounding, it's just like your finances.
It's amazing how all those items on the left, they tend to all go together, right? It's like once you start developing a bad habit in one area, it does have that snowball effect where it just kind of consumes all those things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like
And
it's a
vice
cycle.
versa. Obviously, that's
Yeah.
the benefit too. You can change it
Yeah.
it's not easy to change it, but you know how to change it. And it's just a matter of, are you going to do it?
Yeah. And if you get one thing changed, that's going to start getting you into a new cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see Chris shared his goals: lose 10 pounds of body fat, lower my body comp to increase my speed. Nice. Chris does masters track actually, which is pretty cool. And then Gianne, getting healthier and losing 35 pounds because I want to be more confident so life opens up to me. I want to improve my mental health, have low stress. I love it, and live my best life with my dog. Yes, that's motivating, Gianne. I love that. So it's so much more than losing 35 pounds. So I love that. So this is real quick. I just want to show you guys. I think a lot of people think, oh, I want to lose weight, or I want to, and really we like to look at body fat percentage. So weight's not always the whole story, right? So as this is from a certification that we all of our coaches take, Precision Nutrition, and that's who we use for our nutrition certifications. So just the idea of the habits, right? So if this is where you're at, right, unhealthy, you're probably eating processed foods, eating big portions, eating quickly, okay? And you're not exercising, you're not eating whole foods, and you're sleeping less. And if you want to move from this to become healthy, it's a very easy transition, okay? The transition is we just need to do more of this, right? We need to eat slowly until satisfied at 60% of our meals, include 1 to 2 palms of protein. So this is, your list, right, of things to start thinking about. Okay, this is what I need to start to master. Okay. And I need to start doing less of this. I'm not saying never have an alcoholic beverage again. I'm not saying never eat dessert again. Right. And I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make as they head into January, as they go from, what they're doing to, I'm going to do a fast and I'm not going to eat anything and I'm not drinking alcohol. And and then of course that's going to stop at some point and you're going to come off it. Right. So why not instead make a smaller change that you could keep doing and keep doing for the rest of your life. Right. So this would be your next step, right? If we're going from there to here, this is what we need to do next. And then if we want to make a more of a jump, right now, we really want to start to, really get ourselves into athletic shape. So this is really where athletes kind of hang out. Now we got to go 95% of our meals. We're going to eat slowly. We're going to, down here, we're only going to drink 1 to 2 alcoholic or caloric beverages a week. Okay. Which for some people, you know what, there's some non-negotiables. If that's a non-negotiable for you, then you have to think for yourself, you know what, I'm cool with living my life here, right? Because I like to enjoy myself a little more, or I want to go ahead and, push myself to make some bigger changes and get myself to here. So it's just, I think, a good visual to kind of think about as you're making changes. Don't think you have to jump from where you are to, all of a sudden be, at this really hard level, if that makes sense. So let's say one of the habits, let's say you wrote that list and one of the habits you wanted to do was to start exercising consistently. What would be the most likely reason that you would not follow through? Okay, so once you have that habit, you've circled that habit and you're like, okay, I really want to start exercising consistently. What would be the most likely reason you wouldn't follow through? Maybe it's that you wouldn't get up in the morning to do it. Maybe you have to do it first thing in the morning or it's not going to happen, right? So we have to set the alarm clock. Maybe we have to have, right? Maybe these are the reasons: not getting a good night's sleep, staying up late watching Netflix, maybe, opening a bottle of wine, snacking at night, and then the next day it's not happening, right? So here's what we're going to do, right? We're going to put these things in place to make sure that exercising consistently, because you can say you want to exercise consistently, but we got to think about what are the habits we got to do to make it happen. Okay. So we have to get to bed by 10. Okay. We have to start our bedtime routine by 9 p.m. Maybe the kitchen closes at 8 p.m. That's a thing to think about. What time does your kitchen close? Doors are closed. You can't go in after 8 p.m. Okay. Maybe you stop drinking wine the night before you're going to go work out, right? So I know we've had clients that they love their wine. So we make a little, we decide, okay, the nights that we're working out 3 days a week, I'm going to work out at the gym. Those nights before, I'm no wine for me. Okay. So maybe that's what you're going to do. Okay. So it's figuring out for you, what's a realistic, change we can make that's going to make it more likely that you're going to get that exercise done. Right. And I know for a lot of our clients, because they have their appointment in the morning to exercise, they end up making better choices the night before, right? Because they know, I don't want to exercise tomorrow if I'm not feeling good, or if I stayed up too late, or right. So it ends up being another habit stack, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Rachel, can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
Do you differentiate between exercise and a workout and just movement, right? When you're talking about movement, right, that could be stretching, that can be going for a walk versus a workout, obviously the intensity of that. So when you talk about like a workout or exercising, do you delineate between those two, or do you just look at any sort of movement?
Yeah. So we call it non-exercise physical activity. So like we all should every day, be active, right? So, and that may be where you start. That might be a workout for you to start. But definitely, you want to be, really, we all want to start looking at how many steps we're doing, make sure we're being active. It's so easy now because so many of us work from home to not move, right? Like we don't move, and our bodies are meant to move. And so walk your dog, like, go for a walk, go take a bike ride. Those things I would say are, really non-exercise physical activity. And then you have your workouts, which are more, now we're going to really, the goal of a workout session is to, help to get our body. So we're literally during a workout session, we're going to actually break our body down so that it builds up stronger. So we're going to make sure that we're doing a program that's going to help us to, build our body up stronger, and we're going to get that recovery in place, and that's going to help. So we do differentiate, we definitely, and, like if you haven't done your steps that day, then you probably need to make sure you do a workout that day. Right. So, sure. It's kind of definitely something you want to start to look at. And I don't ever like to give hard and fast, like you need to do 10,000 steps a day. Cause it's like, if you're at, 2,000 steps a day, that might be too big of a jump for you. Right. So, so maybe for you, like, okay, I've been hitting 2,000 steps a day. I'm going to try to hit 5,000 steps a day, and I'm going to get a workout done 3 days a week.
Got it. Just keep an eye on time. We have about 5 more minutes, and then we're going to probably have a hard stop. So I like it. People are asking Q&A as we're going, so we're going to be good. But we're going to do a hard stop at noon. So let's make sure we get through your items. Yep,
I know. Yeah, and if you guys have questions as I'm going, go ahead and throw them into the Q&A as we go. Okay. So really figure out what habit do you feel is most important for you to master? Okay. And do you feel confident you can do it, like we talked about? Okay, let's dive into being a scientist. This is John's favorite part, being the scientist. So think about approaching this journey with curiosity. I think so many of us put so much pressure on ourselves as we start a fitness program, or we start to, make changes in our life, that we have to be perfect. And it's not about being perfect. If you aren't successful at something, approach it with curiosity. Be curious about yourself. Okay, that's interesting. Why didn't I get up for my workout this morning? What happened? Oh, interesting. Oh, I stayed up too late. Okay, maybe I should make different choices next time. Or, maybe my emotions were high at the end of the day, and I ended up, eating something that I wasn't planning to eat, or whatever it might be. Just approach it with curiosity so you can start to learn about your own body and how your own body works and what works for you, because what works for you is going to be different than what works for somebody else. So approach it with curiosity, and what gets measured gets managed. So it's a good idea to measure your progress. So this is something we do, is we you get a text message each night. So you get to check in with us and just let us know how much sleep did you get, how much water did you get, how much protein did you eat, vegetables, and how much alcohol. And then we can track, over a week. So real simple, doesn't have to be, anything complicated. We can easily see for our clients, okay, are we making changes, moving in the right direction? So make sure you're doing some way of tracking your progress so that you can make sure that, what you're doing is improving. MyFitnessPal is another tool that you can use. It's free. You can go in and you can put your food in there, and it keeps track of your calories. It's another way to track your nutrition. Okay. So start to think about what you want to do with that. And then we use things like our InBody, or maybe you have clothes that you're, trying on. Have something that you're, checking in with to make sure you're making progress in the right direction. And so the reason we like the InBody is because we don't like to just look at the scale. We don't like to just look at, the weight on the scale, because we want you to build muscle and we want you to lose fat. And so over time, that's going to help you to, we want to change that body composition. And then my last but not least point, who you spend time with is who you become. Okay. And this is some of our team. And I think this is one of the most powerful things. Think about the 5 people you spend the most time with. I don't have time to get into that story, but this is one of my favorite quotes. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, from Jim Rohn. Think about the 5 people. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? And this is one of my other favorite quotes from James Clear. Join a culture where your desired behavior is your normal behavior. Okay. So if, you're around people who eat healthy, who exercise regularly, who this is normal, you're not the weirdo who's, well, why aren't you having another margarita, or why aren't, right? Like this is normal for you to be taking care of yourself. Then it's going to be much easier, much more downhill path for your elephant. If you're around people who make that path easier. Okay. Gianni has a question. I used your first book, The Female Body Breakthrough, and cut 22 pounds since last September. Awesome. I love to hear it. I get strong cravings for salty food before bedtime. Any strategies to not eat again after dinner? Should I stop using seasonings with salt, or is it important to consume a bit of salt? Salt's okay. And if you're craving salt, your body might need salt. So you can actually put a little bit of salt in your water throughout the day, and maybe try and add, maybe sprinkle in salt throughout your day and see if that helps you with that craving for salt later. And it's probably a crunch you're looking for. So a lot of it can be habit, at night, your body's in this habit of eating. I'm assuming you're talking about chips, because that's what, the evening salty snack can be. So just change out that habit, start to maybe, get some more salt in throughout your day. And then maybe, sprinkle some tahini on some cucumbers, and that might be your evening treat, and see if that, fills that. So thank you for the question. All right, team, I want to give you guys a free gift. So at this point, I tried to get through as much as I could, and I always have way too much. John and I were talking about how we love to share what we're passionate about. And so it's always hard to wrap it all into a short presentation. So I want to give you guys a free gift. Head over to results-fitness.com/Vance Wealth. So this is specific for you guys. And you're going to download it's 7 habits you guys can get started on. So if you download that, it'll give you a free gift of a booklet, and you're going to get, in that booklet, I have 7 things that you guys can get started on right away. And I give you that, whether you're an upholder and need to know exactly what to do, or, as you do log in for that, I will be reaching out to connect with you. So you will get that accountability as well. So definitely, I look forward to connecting with some of you if you want more advice or information, but please head over and get that free gift and to get you guys started. Thank you.
Awesome. So we just made
11:59.
We're right at the end. So Rachel, it's so great having you. I hope this can become a more regular occurrence, at least annually, but hopefully more. It's great information. As I was, kind of preparing for this, it didn't, I think, strike me as how similar the work you do and what we do is. Obviously, we're dealing with different challenges, but we know the science behind
things. We're dealing with habits and people, right? Yeah,
and we know the emotions behind things, and it's very powerful. So again, I love this. I'm looking forward to continuing to connect offline on different items. So thanks for the offer to those that attended, and I really enjoyed this. And so we're done. It's noon.
Thank you.
We are done.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Take care.
Connect
Rachel.
with me on social. Thank you.